All right, race fans. This is the final day for the 2021 18-meter nationals. This is Rich Owen's report, which you can find in the Soaring Society of America website, ssa.org, under racing, and then I believe it's latest results, and then go to whatever year you want and pick the contest. You'll get this link with reports for every day, scores for every day, track archives, and the flight logs, which we're using today to drive CU. So Rich's report here is very, very good. I'll show you the task here in a second. It was basically southwest start. It was an area task, 3 hours. We got started a little bit late, typical 2:45 start time. We're in that area. Huntington Mountain is up on the north side of the plateau to the east of Nephi, across the valley, and then up into the plateau. And it was a big area, I believe 40 kilometer area, so 80 kilometers end to end. Area tasks, they give you a minimum time. You have to get as much distance in however many areas they give you. Areas can be from 10 kilometers to 40 or 50 kilometers. Obviously, a 40 kilometer area is absolutely huge. Probably 2,000 square miles that you can go. So you can choose to go deep in the first one, let's say, and less in the next two, or just touch the first one and then you have to go deeper in the next two. And it's a huge game of risk in predicting what the conditions are going to be like in those areas. And that really came into play today. I call them casino tasks, especially in a place like Nephi, with the desert and the mountain valleys and everything that goes on there. You can have completely different weather in one area, and there's no way to know in 2 hours' time, when you're going to get to the third area, what the conditions are going to be like. So you're basically hedging a bet, saying, I think the weather's going to be good or better in that third area, so I'm just going to touch the first one. Meanwhile, everybody goes deep in the first one behind you, and if somehow the conditions get bad in that last area, you can't get your distance. And that's what happened to John Seaborn. I believe it was day 4 or 5 on that area task where he got caught off. Today he makes up and gains a little bit, but not quite enough, and we'll walk you through that. I had a tough day. I for whatever reason couldn't get up and had to relight and was the last guy into the air, but fortunately I found 3 knots off the relight. It was a very, very quick relight. I actually communicated with the guys on the ground. I have to thank Ron Gleason, who was running the launch, and once the runway cleared of pilots, I was able to land downwind into the launch and have my glider turned around. I kept my water, or most of it, and was able to launch relatively quickly. So that was essential. And then I had a tough task today, so we'll walk through that. Let's see. The leg in Huntington Mountain was fairly easy. It follows the clouds, left of course. That's the turn point to the east. And then coming back out of the plateau, that was a little bit tricky, and the fleet had spread out massively there. There were some people who had trouble on the first leg. Alpha 8 was one of them. He just touched the first turn and turned upwind without even really getting over the plateau much at all. Or over the backside of the plateau much at all, but that turned out to work out, and that's the way area tasks work. It's a bit of a gamble. Cricket Mountain caused some problems with some pilots getting disconnected from the clouds. They were forced to take weaker thermals. And if you stayed high to the top third of the height band, you were able to cross a desert without too much difficulty. Going to Table Mountain, the clouds were starting to fall apart, and this is very true. Going into that third turn point, it was falling apart very, very quickly, and there was a good amount of sink on the lee side of the hills. That is also true, and I experienced a little bit of that, and it was hard to get to final glide. Dave Coggins started final glide 2,800 feet under and made it back from 115 out. I had the opposite experience of this. I fell to the one mountain range to leeward of the final turn and tried to come up there, and it was awful. I'll show you that. Tim Taylor got on a good cloud street and had an easy time going home. And then a little bit of discussion about the awards. And I'll touch on the results here real quick. I was able to pull it off, but you can see an 18th for the day, 887 points. John Seaborn with 946. So we gained about 69 points, and or a little bit more than that. So that would be 54 plus 13. Yeah, 59 points. And but it was, it's like a blind auction. You until you landed, you had no idea what went on. And I actually was pretty sure I didn't win, and I had a huge lead going into this day, 130 points or so, and but I never really knew what happened as far as the distance that John got. And I thought he had gotten more of a nominal distance, but he actually went pretty darn short, and that's what saved me. Andy Blackburn, I flew with Andy a lot today. We both had really tough tasks, although we were very fast going into the second turn. It was just that it shut off and everybody was able to turn for home sooner, had a much easier time. Dave Coggins flew awesome in this contest, second today. You heard about that final glide where he's able to pull it up from almost 3,000 feet below. And that is pretty impressive. Again, I had the total opposite experience. Jim Lee, fifth for the contest. Rick Andrebo back to sixth. Really good. Peter Dean, Gary Ittner, Robin Clark, and Alan Admins to round up the top 10. Very well done. All right. Oops. Let's get into the flight. And I'll stop it and we'll start here. So you can see here, this is the step. This is where the CD opens the task. And before you can start, everybody has to touch down below the 12.5 maximum altitude. So you have to get one IGC trace point below that, and then climb back up. And you can see most of the people didn't have a very difficult time getting up, but 2 or 3 got stuck. This track here couldn't get up, and it was quite difficult. And somewhere in here there's my coming back to the airfield, and then here's my climb back up. So you can see if this is 20 and this is 40, my turnaround was like 2 minutes. And that was, what an unbelievable ground crew that is to be able to do that for us. And I can't thank them enough. I mean, they try and accommodate pilots as best they could. And fortunately, I went down after, right at the end of the launch, and the runway was clear. So I was able to get out, in and out pretty quick and save my water. So you can see me here struggling along here. I'm at 500 feet AGL over the high ground just to the west of the field, and this ends in tears for me. Let me really quickly show you the task. I forgot to do that. Yep, so here we are in Nephi. We're going to go over to Huntington Municipal, which is kind of on the back of the plateau here. And this is the scary Marscape. I think that was 20, and then both of these look like they were 40. So some big turn areas, but unfortunately there was basically an assigned task for those of us who went deep here. Everybody basically touched here and touched somewhere at the top of this. I touched here and had to fall, I touched right about here and had to fall downwind to this ridge to go up. But these guys who were smart, there was a little bit better clouds remaining here, and they touched here, and the fast final glides were able to stay on this high terrain back up. But going this way, Jim Lee, myself, a few others, it was totally brutal, and I almost landed out right about here. Ugh. So it was a sweet and sour day for me, but this was a painful day until it wasn't. So that was good character building, I guess. Anyway, that's the task, and here's 7 Tango, and I'll speed up through the land out sequence. So I'm on the radio with the ground right now. You can just see there's one left to go, so there'll be a few latent tow planes looking for another ride. And I'm here at 800 above the ground, 840, and it was clear to me that I was probably not going to get up. And once I knew I could go get a relight, it seemed less risk for me to quickly go and get a relight, get back up to 2,000 and go. So it was actually a strategic decision to take the relight and get back up. I suppose we're all allowed to make that decision, but after finding nothing on the first launch, let me center this for you. Put that right there so we can keep track for quite a while. I'm able to get into 3.3, so 6-7 knots up for 5,000. So we come off launch around 7 and or 75, and then we get 5,000. That gets us up to 12, and basically you're connected with the high altitude lift, and you're pretty safe at that point when you're basically taking anything you can to climb up. Alpha 8, as soon as he could, he is absolutely one of the very first starters, and I think he is the first starter. So he clearly has something in mind, and from his perspective, why not? I mean, he's there to win. He knows I got stuck, so he's leveraging, putting all his chips on the table to go early and to try and do something different, and that's exactly what I would have done, similar to what happened in Bermuda High. The other day when I knew Sean Murphy had given me a little bit of space, you try and leverage it as much as you can. There's nothing to lose. You might lose second and fall back to fifth or something, but I think John had one thing in mind for this event. He had won the previous Nationals, so he wanted to do it again. All right, so Alpha 8's starting pretty low. About 16, so he's giving away 1,000 feet there, but he's getting on course and booking. He has a difficult leg here, which is pretty interesting, but he still manages to do it. And I was looking at the scores. Even if John got 1,000 points today, so that would give him another 54 points, I still would have survived barely. He would have. There's 55 right there. So I would have won by 26 points. But I got to tell you, this is not something that you want to experience. It is brutally painful to be up there and know you're behind and know that you're bleeding, and the day shuts down and you're doing, 1 knot, 2 knot, 3 knot lift trying to get home and very close to landing out. I turned the radio off at this point on this day just so I could focus, but it was mentally brutal. All right. So John's off to the races. Romeo 9's off to the races, and I'm still coming up. I'm up to about 15 here, but I'm not to my start altitude. I'm not feeling any stress here. I should have been, but I could have left and started right there at 15 with John if I would have known that he was there, but that's not something that I could see. And you could see how he sort of snuck in from the south and took off the south end of the line. So it's one of these nice things about these 10K starting lines. Flarm range is maybe 5 miles if you're lucky, and it's very, very difficult to track somebody. So clearly he was hiding and jumped through the line and took off the south edge and ran, which is really cool. One of the fun parts about glider racing. I think the line should be 20K, frankly. It allows you to lever the line and then lever the tracks that you like. So I get up and start at, if I go back a little bit, I was probably pretty close to 17,000. And so I did get 1,000 feet on Alpha 8 just from the start. But I'm starting with 1 Charlie, 9 Bravo, 7 Tango. And I think I kind of locked into them and said, okay, these are the guys that I want to go with, and this looks good. If I wasn't comfortable with that group, I would have stayed and waited. You could see here, There's a huge gaggle. I'll try and see who's in here. 8-9, Hotel 7, 9-0 is going back to start. Zulu Oscar. It's a pretty big group. Papa 7 is going back in to start. So I'm probably towards the middle, maybe even the back of the group here. Yeah, maybe towards the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We make up 14, 15, and 16. So right about in the middle. All right. Sorry, I'm trying to make these videos shorter. Zoom out a little bit. The better clouds were up here to the north, and you could see Alpha 8 for some reason. I think because he started on this line to the south, just your perspective makes that look better. But if you started on the middle or the left end of the line, it was clear that this side was better. And he almost gets killed here. Not literally, but he almost has a bad day right off the beginning. And glide ratios are just sort of typical standard glide ratios. There's no streets here. It's glide, cloud, climb, glide, cloud, climb, but there's no sustained lift underneath the runs. And Alpha 8 looks like he had a miss there. And he's down to 12,000. We're at 13.5, which, considering how far he's ahead, isn't that big of a deal. But his AGL at this point is pretty low. He's only 2,200 feet over the terrain, and he's going back into an area where he's only going to be 2,000 feet above the terrain, and then he's going to fall off the back of this rising terrain into a valley or a desert, and this is going to be sink, especially if you're down low. Even here, beyond the max altitude of the first ridge line, you're probably going to start to get stuck in sink. So he's pushed really hard, and he didn't find a climb to get a little bit of space, and that's going to hurt, as you'll see here in a moment. So Alpha 8's trying. It's a miss. And we're all coming up the left side. And pretty much everybody comes up the left side with the exception of one Charlie and Papa 7. Most of the group is following the same little line of lift. And there are Q out here over the desert, which is rare right now. And as long as you're high enough, there's enough Q that everything feels good. So there you can see Alpha 8 fought. He's down to 1,600 feet. And he has to fall back, and he falls back all the way to here. So when I was reviewing this, I thought, oh my gosh, he must have restarted or something. But we were too far up the leg, and it was too late in the day. At least, and then he comes back, it's another miss, but then this saves him. He finds 4.5 meters a second there with Papa 7. But we do pass him from, he was the first starter. So he started at 44, I started at 52. So we've gained 8 minutes on him. We're past him and above him, I mean considerably past him. I'm at 15.9, and he's still coming up through 14.2. So not the way you want to start the day, but it's an area task. So, you know, you never die in an area task. You're forced to take another risk, which he will, to stay alive, because it's sort of the only choice at this point. So really good train of, you know, the clouds were, I don't know, a mile wide. This was definitely the best line into the turn area, as you can see here, a 20K turn area. And that's why everybody is sort of strung out. There's not much that you can do in this situation in terms of variance. Everybody's doing 73s, 87s. Two Tangos having a really nice leg here. But I'm just going to say it. In reality, we all end up going too far into this. It looks really good. We're going fast. Everybody's happy. Everybody's used to 4 or 5 days in a row with speeds in the, 110 mile an hour range or plus. And I think that got the best of us. Papa 7 turns early, and Alpha 8 will turn early. He's in there at 14.2, and there he goes. Turning around. Romeo 9 bangs it into the back bottom. And now I'm going to focus a little bit on my group here. Staying with 9 Bravo, Hotel 7, Bravo 4, Hotel Whiskey. Is that Delta Golf? And basically, I had no idea really what was going on with Alpha 8 at this point. None. So I'm doing the best I can. I know 9 Bravo is a good guy to keep an eye on. He's been fast. We fly well together. So I figure I'll kind of stay in touch with him as best I can. Coming back into this gaggle, some of the low climbers are coming up and still climbing at 3 meters a second for Romeo Fox. So a good idea to use that information when you can. There's no better marker of lift than a glider climbing. And it would be foolish not to utilize that. So yep, I jump in, I get 2.8, a nice top off, probably get pretty close to 15. And the next challenge is that we're coming out of the desert up into this high terrain, and if you just glid straight, we might make it, but we'd probably be within 1,000 feet of the terrain at this point. So we're going to need a really good glide ratio or some additional lift here. And we're going into 30 kph of wind. So there is more westerly wind than there's been in the recent days. You can see Alpha 8 has already made it back out into the valley, or he's on the leading edge of the valley right here. Yes, so he's on the leading edge of this little sub-valley. This is the main valley here. Yeah, he's right in there. But a pretty big deviation, so it's not easy. Zoom in just a little more. But he does find a 3.5 meter climb. So he definitely deviated for the right cloud. So he comes in here, turns, hits this cloud, does a turn, and then moves a little further, and then finds some more. And I think he's by himself there. So good on him. And I'm right about here in the middle of the area right now. You can see this is the outline of the turn area. 9 Bravo, 7 Tango, Bravo 4, Bruno Vassal. 9 Bravo is Andy Blackburn, and Romeo Fox, Robin Clark. And behind us, Alpha Alpha, Hotel 7. To the south of us, PM 89er. 89er is going really far to the south here. You can see this is the rum line, and this is quite a turn. You must have found a line of clouds or something they like down there. Pretty poor into the wind, so actually that's pretty standard. 44 for 9 Bravo and 7 Tango on a basically 69 kilometer glide here. I guess 44 is not terrible into 20 to 30 kph of wind, and coming from the backside valley up into the high terrain where it might be a little sinky. We're still at 14.7 and 14.9 respectively here. So in that exchange, touching early and touching the back, we've gained about 40 kilometers, because it actually, no, 20, yeah, probably 70 kilometers on Alpha 8 at this point. So we have a ton of mileage in the bank. Now the question is, can we close it off? He's hedging that it's going to shut off late and we're going to slow down a lot. And he's definitely doing everything that he can to do that at this point. And just to give you an idea here, we've had a relatively good glide, but we're down to 1,700 feet and 1,600 feet over the terrain at this point. This is the high plateau, or this is the high plateau. all the way down here to the south, just this huge area of high terrain. It's not really a mountain or a ridge, it's just a high area. There is a ridge effect here on the leading edge of it, but we had to work hard and get up right to 17,000 feet to make it here at a 44 LD, which is a pretty respectable LD into the wind. And you can tell we're also slowing down. We're only doing 182 minus 17, so about 200. So we're doing like the low end of 100 knots. We're not pushing super hard. All right, I deviated here for something that I liked last second, and what 9 Bravo is doing here is a smart thing. I really shouldn't give this away, but I will. When you're behind someone, which I was slightly ahead at that point, and they deviate, they 50-50, let's say, they're going to miss. Based on your estimation of what they're going for, you can add to that or subtract to that. So he's staying straight because the next group, you can probably see wings flashing ahead here. I don't know if that's 5K or something. Maybe you can see him on the flarm, whatever. Or there's a cloud up here, so he's connecting the dots there and saying, okay, there's another chance for a climb. I deviate, make a turn. There's 1 kph lost if it doesn't work, and miss, and then come back and hit it again, and finally get a climb. It's a good one, 3.6, but he didn't commit to it until he had to. Now I am a little bit on top of him now. I'm at 12.7 and he's at 12, so I'm 700 feet above him. But if I would have missed and he would have gone straight up to the upslope here, a little farther ahead, he would have been in a better position. And he's in a JS3 and he's a good pilot. 700 feet above is nothing, and in trail he's going to catch up as well. Dave Coggins comes in above us, so we've got another good pilot in our vicinity, and I come with him and we jump into another 3.6. So now we've gone from 1,000 feet above the ground, and right here on cue in this area, I'm going to zoom in here for you so you can see us. This is the valley. This is sort of the ridge line of there's ravines here and stuff, but this is right where you'd expect to get a strong climb, and that's why we all pushed pretty low to get up into here. It took 2 climbs to do it, and we had to step through 2, but not a bad way to go in terms of getting back up, and speeds are good. I don't think velocity average works very well at this point. 8-9er has the fastest at 149. 1 Charlie, who I've been watching off there in the distance right here, he's at 146. But at this point, 9 Bravo and I are doing just fine, and my points and my lead should be very safe at this point with a 140. And I wasn't trying to win today. I was trying to fly in the middle of the risk spectrum and control the risks. Now, I wasn't aware of how leveraged Alpha 8 was on an early shutoff and a low distance, and I probably would have turned earlier if I would have known that, but I didn't, and it seemed like the majority of the pilots were doing the back of that first area. I was comfortable with it, and that's what I did. All right, let me zoom out here so we can see what everybody's doing. You can see the group is just scattered to the wind here. 8-9er still working to the south quite hard. I think 8-9er had a good day today. 8-9er, 5th, 957, 150, 11 kph faster than I did. So he did have a good day. So, these are bold pilots. 8-9er, Alpha 8, Papa 7, they're Zulu Lima. They're fearlessly independent and can win days. It's just the question is, what kind of mistakes do you make? because that's really, at this level, what it's about. PM and a nice climb there. So you can tell Andy and I are keeping an eye on each other here. Not letting each other out of our sights. Kind of a weak climb, 2.1. PM takes off. I think we do have a little trouble here over the valley, which we should. It should be suppressed. Two Tango connects with us here. I think Two Tango might have started behind me, but I can't remember, so let's take a look. Two Tango started at 50, and I started 52. So Two Tango started slightly in front of me, and I think he went to the back of the first cylinder. So we're a couple minutes ahead, basically tied at this point. But we spent a lot of time flying with Two Tango and 9 Bravo this week, which is good. All right, 9 Bravo sees something he likes, bends over for it, and then I notice it a little bit later. Two Tango's sort of splitting the difference. Two Tango's quite a bit lower than us. What is he doing right now? He's down at 1,700 feet. I'm at 42, and I'm quite a bit above 9 Bravo. I'm 1,300 feet above him. And I pull into something here. Oh, so we both saw it. I think I got there slightly ahead. 6.1, a little stronger on the top at this point. Andy gets 5.6. That's going to work. Down low, Two Tango only gets 3.2. But that's a big climb. I'll take it. Where is that? So that is over the mid-range peaks, White Pine Peak, Kanosh Canyon, and on the north side, Indian Ranch. This is that main north-south highway where there are often a lot of strong climbs, and that's hot desert air here, and then it gets kicked up a little bit and goes bang, 6.1 meters. That's 12 knots. And I take it for 4,700 feet for 4 minutes. So that is just about where Alpha 8 found his big climb, somewhere along this latitude line, I guess, north and south. All right. Oh, nice big climb. I think 9 Bravo was 1,300 feet below, and I had a stronger climb rate, but somehow he is right there with me. So I want to believe the data, but I don't like that. I'm at 16.8, he's at 16.5, and he's a kilometer or two behind. I would say generally gain for him, but and then look at this. Just I'm flying too slowly, and he just blasts up alongside. DG shows us that there's something in the air, and we take 3.1 and 2.8 respectively. DG gets 2.6 over there, and it's starting to blue out here just a little bit. So there's a couple clouds here, but there's nothing beyond. And you'll notice the behavior of the pilots is such that nobody goes very deep into this turn at all because it's blue out there, and also people are realizing that 3 hours is a pretty short task. We're also going east-west today for this first two turns. So we're transitioning valley to mountain range to desert to this, and we're not running along sustained areas of lift. It's a little bit more difficult to stay high, and it also is very late in the day, and so you just get a late in the afternoon drop in lift as the cooling begins. So I turn right away. You can see my turn point right there, that red line that shows my track through the task. So Romeo Fox is with us, Clemens CPAC, Tim Taylor, Romeo 9, and 89er90 connect a little farther to the south into the turn. We've got a little away from Bravo 4. And DG went a little deeper as well. Not much, but a little. Now looking back this way, you can see our final turn. And basically there's better clouds and high ground here. And the smartest guys go here and stay in those clouds and then come back on this high terrain. And I make the mistake of going a little too far in here. You can see where I turn. And at that point, it's into the wind and I'm close to the ground to get back up onto this line. And I fall back down onto this high terrain and work the ridge line farther, or the mountains farther to the east of Rum Line. And it doesn't work out too well. At this point, though, I'm in a pretty good position. I'm quite a ways ahead of 9 Bravo, who might be recognizing at this point that this is the line that he wants to be on, because he makes a big right turn there. He's at 14,000, I'm at 14,600, but this all begins to change here relatively soon. 1 Charlie is going very deep, or has gone very deep into this turn. So he touched and then went deep into this last one. And he's relatively high at 15,300. Flying with Robin. And here's where things start to get tough. And I think these guys up here on the rising part of this ridge were plainly better positioned. You know, my computer is probably saying at this point, you're going to be late, touch here and go home. But it really would have been better to recognize the situation here and not have to fall across the valley. I end up getting way too low and into a shit sandwich, basically. So I'm doing really well on 9 Bravo at this point. He was even with me, basically, at that last turn. And now I'm well ahead. I'm down to 12.2. He's at 13.2. But I have a lot more distance. And I'm just about to get to my turning point, or my scoring point here, right above Delano Peak. Very beautiful area to fly, by the way. I probably haven't been saying that enough. Looks like I touched. And it also looks like I had a very clear, I'd already made my decision as to what I was going to do. I was going to come to this high ground and go north. I didn't want to go off track, way the hell over here to get up and going again. And I think I was just a little bit too low to be able to make that decision. You can see I'm already down to 11. And over the valley, that's 4,600 feet. It's 1,000 feet over the peaks of this and this, if that. Probably not over some of the high peaks, actually. So 1 Charlie is out ahead of me and is also pretty low. 1 Charlie's at 11, and I'm at 11. He's at 11.5, so 500 feet above. Rotate the camera here so we can see everything that's going on. There's Alpha 8 off to the races. He's up high and looks quite happy. And I think he basically just touched this last turn, and he's just hedging his bets on a short, fast task. And at this point, I think he still isn't. So he flew, yeah, he's 309. So he's actually 10 minutes late. And he gets a 148 speed. The winner for the day is 157, Gary Ittner, who I haven't followed enough during this task to keep an eye on what he's doing. We'll take a look at him quick. Actually, if I look at Gary, where are you, Gary? Papa 7. Then I can look here, and we can see what he did. Let me pull this up and make sure that we're looking at Papa 7's data. Where are you? Papa 7. All right. And he didn't do too much differently. So he touched the north side of this, and then touched right here, and probably came down the fast side of this. I'm going to zoom in until I can find Papa 7. He might be further up considering his finish time. Yeah, okay, so he touched, stayed on this high ground home, and won the day. Okay, jump back to 7 Tango here so you can watch my misery begin. So I am 2,000 feet above the ground now, and starting to seriously question my decision-making skills. If I could have found a nice climb here, everything would have been fine. I would have had a reasonable velocity task. I was sitting at 163 at this point, by far the fastest, but I'm also at 2,000 feet above the ground, so that doesn't balance out very well. But I definitely had the distance in hand, and I just needed one strong climb. Unfortunately, I did not find it. But to this point, I was doing well. I'm going to zoom in here. So that was 0.6. That's going to hurt your speed, and it did. So I'm still anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 feet above, depending on the terrain. And going out into the desert, I'm going to have a little bit more room, about 4,000 feet. That gives you an idea of the height of the mountains. They're about 3,000 feet above the valley floor. And I got to pause here. I've got a little critter coming down to say hello. All right. That was a bit of a delay. I need to go back a touch. Back a touch more. And I think I even need to go back a touch more. All right, this is that 0.6 climb that I took before I paused. And you can see one Charlie was a little higher up the ridge, and he found 1.7 meters. Man, I would have killed for that at this point, for 2,300 feet. But I am really low, 11.1. You know, I was 1,000 feet above the ground here, but out into the valley, I'm at about 4,000 feet. And that, I'm going to zoom out here just a little bit. You can see Romeo Fox and Papa Mike here. But I just didn't connect with the climb, and this was huge risk for me. I went out straight thinking I could get something here over the valley, over these towns. And you can see I flew right over that town, and now I'm going for the next big town. There's some roads. There's a little bit of ridge system here. There's still 32 kph of wind out of the south. So I'm hoping something is going to kick off here. But I'm at 2,800 feet AGL over the valley, 8,000 feet, 63 glide, which is pretty standard downwind. I've already started to dump a little bit of water, and things are going south pretty quickly for me here. But as glider pilots always do, you have to be patient and believe, basically. I mean, within your safety range, but you have to believe. And I still believed. Although, there were some mild swear words. And let's see, I stopped there. That's a miss. I am 2,600 AGL. The next mountain system is this right here. And that's my target. But I'm not high enough to get on it. I'm going to get on it, 500 feet above the ground at this point, if I'm lucky. So it's really looking difficult, and I need a climb badly. 1 Charlie is at 11, so 4,000 feet above, and Romeo Fox is at 13. So I'm really disconnected from these guys. I don't have anything to look at ahead in terms of other gliders, so on my own, which is fine. And in hindsight, this was actually incredibly fun. I never wanted to be anywhere near to a ridge during this contest, but it is really fun to fly in ridges. And so I just took the ridge in here once I got up, but I'm at 1182, and I've still got a few K to go to get to this, and this is not a strong ridge. This is just a hill, basically. And I don't want to risk a land out, so over the town, I get 0.6 meters a second. I stop for 10 minutes, and I climb for 1,300 feet. And what that's going to do is get me on the ridge high enough where it has some meat to it. And 1 Charlie goes way back and takes 0.7 himself. He goes way back here, huge deviation, and it doesn't pay off for him. I get a 0.6 here in the valley. He gets 0.7 there, right on the high mountain. So that is interesting. And there we go. So Romeo Fox and 1 Charlie should have final glide from where they are, but I'm leaving here at 7,500 and 2,000 feet above the ground now. So I took it up 1,000, and I'm going to ride that ridge home. And the wind is 21 out of 253 right now. It's roughly west-southwest. Romeo Fox is cooking. Getting a lot of activity up there, so there's still something going on. But I'm on the ridge, and you can see I'm only 179 feet above the terrain here, even at that point. So I'm not very high on this ridge. There's tons of places to land out here. I was thinking about it, that I was going to need to do that, but there's ranches and farmers' fields and that sort of thing. It wasn't fantastic. It wasn't like a cut hay field, but it wasn't too big of a risk here. 200 feet, 100 feet. But I'm starting to get that positive LD now. I am having to go around some spines and work around a little bit, staying about 100 to 200 feet high. And hanging in there. Getting pushed off the ridge here, going around that spine, and you can see 1 Charlie and Alpha Golf are up high in the terrain. And that was a little bit uncomfortable. 6,200 feet, that's, I think, below the finish height. So I definitely need some more juice here to get home. 1 Charlie's struggling too. And there we go, 1.5, taken for 2,200. And 7 minutes. Not ideal. I know I'm bleeding a little bit, but at least I'm going to make it and still have a relatively decent result. I did think that there was a good chance that I lost the lead. And how you doing, buddy? Hold on, I'll be done in just 1 second. But it turned out okay. But that was definitely a exciting, scary final glide. So there you go. Oh, hold on one second. So there you go. And zooming out, I'm not sure how many people were left out flying right now. Quite a few. Hotel Whiskey, Bruno 4, 2 Hotel, Victor Whiskey. And let's zoom out here and see if we can see. So just a few. But that was definitely pretty late. So back over to the scores. So I managed to pull it off. Even if John got 1,000 today, I would have absorbed it with the finish that I had, but it was certainly extremely uncomfortable. Andy Blackburn had a difficult day as well. Obviously, it was just weak all the way around, and he struggled getting in. We basically finished tied. But Gary Ittner won. Rick Andrebo had an excellent day. Dave Coggins had an excellent day and moved up a bit. I think he moved some points forward. And this was an incredible contest, incredible speeds, great tasks, great crew, great groundwork, and great flying, amazing scenery. I hope we get to go back there again someday soon. It is absolutely fantastic, and I think that finishes it up. That's the final day, and we'll start working on Uvalde here in maybe a week or so, and I hope you enjoyed it. Leave comments, and thanks for watching. See you soon.